How we doing, traders? Sorry for a little lag there, but we're getting started. Welcome to Stock Market Movers. Let's go ahead and dive into today's action. Today, we're going to talk about what the stock market is doing today. The NAHB Home Builders Index. We'll talk about natural gas, what's going on in natural gas. We'll take a look at the earnings on the day. We'll also talk about the earnings coming up this week. What should be on your radar? We'll talk a little bit about what stocks are coming up for the rest of the week. We'll touch Delta. We'll talk a little bit about Coinbase today, getting some lift. General Electric releasing some news. And of course, we'll touch on some expert opinions like always right here on Stock Market Movers with none other than your host, Money Mitch. Let's go ahead and dive into today's action and see what today's going to bring us.
It's time for Money Making Mitch. When investors need a story, we're going to the moon. Welcome to Money Mitch, where story is everything. I'm here to find you the next opportunity. It's all about the green hands. Now we all know the bull market is here to stay. Money Mitch.
What's going on, traders out there? How are we doing right now? This market seems like it's just tough to hold some rallies. Coming down right now, taking a look, that's coming down towards a 387. We'll see if we break that level during today's show. Let's go ahead. Let's dive in to the market today. It looks like we're rising right now based on the fact that that the Federal Reserve is going to be less aggressive against the inflation feared. Of course, a lot of people started mentioning last week the 100 basis point hike rate, right? This is where those fears really come from. Are they going to do 100, 75? 75 is what's being leaned on now, but last week for a little bit there, it was 100 points. We'll see what happens. 100 basis points. We'll see what happens there. SPY is pulling back now. Was up earlier. We'll see what happens today if we're able to get back into the green and continue the drive, right? Now, let's talk about what economic data hit today. Important to kind of keep your eyes on what's going on in the housing situation. A lot of people were asking about what's going on with situations like ITB. ITB is actually holding relatively well here. You can see here, even today, it's still holding up well. The ITB is the U.S. home construction index here, and it's holding up pretty decently. I mean, take a look here, guys. You can see here on the daily chart, it's been holding up right above the SMA 50, and now also holding above the 9, doing a little bit of a crossover on the daily action, showing us that the price action's really close to here, and we'll see if it starts getting moving here. What did we get? Well, the National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Market Index, a survey designed to gauge market conditions, found that builders' sentiment dropped 12 points to 55. This is still at least considered positive. Anything above 50 is considered positive. Now, the thing to state here is, of course, that the sentiment has fallen nearly 24 points since March. And so continuing the downtrend here, and what is it pointing to? It's pointing to production bottlenecks, rising home building costs, and continued high inflation that's causing many builders to either halt construction because of the cost of land, halt construction because, of course, the actual construction cost, or because the financial exceeds the market value of the home. And so building the home is going to cost more than the actual value of that home. And so right here showing us that there's definitely bottlenecks showing up in the housing market. We'll continue to watch how the Fed affects this. If they continue to increase those interest rates, what's going to happen in the home builders? Will we start seeing some decline? Come on in. All right, time to catch up with the chat. Looks like we got a bunch of people on out of there, so it's good to see Born, Easy, Hertz, Beach Bum, Dustin. Love to see you guys that are everyday loyal viewers for us. If you're new to this show, say hello in the chat. Tell me what you're looking at today. I'll make sure to go ahead and touch it. Let's continue going towards the next headline here, which we're going to talk a little bit about natural gas. And to do that, I think we should watch UNG. I've been keeping a close eye on this. Of course, this is US nat gas, but you could also watch maybe the Widowmaker Boyle coming on back here also. Let's take a look at what happened in natural gas today. So the EU signed a new gas deal with Azerbaijan on Monday. Azerbaijan has committed to delivering at least 20 billion cubic meters to the EU annually by 2027. Azerbaijan was already on track to increase its deliveries in the region to 8.1 billion, and now is expected in 2021 in 2022 to get this up there towards 12 billion cubic meters this year. We'll see what happens in this deal and how it affects natural gas, but I definitely think it should be something on your radar. I have been watching to see if we would get another push up, and Dustin is still asking, where's my Nord Stream ticker? Well, just keep your eyes on natural gas. We might get another lift here. It's something that's been on my radar going into winter. We'll see what happens here on UNG, and the EU signing a new gas deal here with Azerbaijan. All right, let's go ahead. Let's continue going. Let's get out of the natural gas. Let's go into what was hot and what was not. This is where we go ahead and cover here. We look into the sectors, the industries, what is doing well right now, what is not doing well. And of course, this is on a daily outlook. So let's go ahead. Let's dive on in and see what we got in today's market. All right, so what was hot and what was not? Well, it was consumer cyclical leading us, but looks like energy just took lead here. Consumer cyclical was doing better than energy for a second there. I thought XOM was a really good opportunity today. And you guys can see here, it did push on out the gates, pulling on back now. We'll see if it gets another lift going into the close. I don't mind this trade. I'm looking to see if oil can come on back and give us another lift. Of course, you can also just watch the day trade vehicle like Gush to see if that gives another lift. Or, of course, you can watch maybe opportunities like you have in Oxy on this pullback. I think this is a nice hourly pullback measured here. We'll see if these oil names can continue taking the lift. I also saw a kind of cheaper names start getting off the ground today in oil, gas, and drilling, like TEL up 8%. You guys can watch some of these. NRT getting off the ground here. So these are definitely cheaper names, lower liquidity. So just be careful out there. Like BPT also here making some lift. The question is, will these continue to run and get that lift? Consumer cyclical was a hot also. What was hot in consumer cyclical? So it was a lot of the department stores actually getting that lift. This is really interesting. Why? Because in a short minute, I'm going to actually play our interview from Dana Telsey, and that was on Friday. She talked all about retail and how that retail could really affect this week. Of course, last week we had some retail earnings start hitting the tape and start getting the action moving. A lot of that with Gap and different companies. Now we're starting to see the strength come back into these names. You're looking at these right now. We'll take a look. What was hot today? Department stores doing well. Macy's getting a lift. KSS getting a lift. We'll see what happens with these. Also, JWN up there 6.5%. Big day there for Nordstrom getting that lift. But it wasn't only these names. You could take a look at apparel stores getting a lift today. Express getting a lift. GPS, Gap getting a nice lift, 7% up. Boot Barn Holdings getting that nice lift to 7. DBI, designer brands. You can take a look at a lot of these names. Abercrombie and Finch getting a nice little lift up. Ross up 3.6%. So you guys can keep these ones on watch. We'll see what happens in apparel, but retail sales last week really kind of changed things up on Friday. And that's what what alluded to here on our first interview that we're going to get into in about 2 minutes here on these retail, keeping them on your radar. So Dana Telsey, the chief research officer from Telsey Advisory Group, gave us a lot of insight that this could help these companies take a quick turnaround. And she gave a lot of names that I'm going to go ahead and kind of point to throughout the interview. And then you guys can see how they reacted today. But a lot of these getting right off the ground. You can see Urban even getting a nice little push we'll continue to watch how these perform. And you guys can keep watching some of these. Let's see some of the higher cap ones. TJX. Look at TJX getting a nice lift today. I'll keep these on watch, and this is apparel. We also saw lodging stocks getting a nice little bounce. We've talked about Hilton and how it's been coming on back. Certain ones like this. Look at Marriott. Nice little move back on up there, through there, getting towards the 150. We'll see if these can continue making runs. Resorts and casinos also having a good day. Leisure having a good day today. If you're taking a look at that, you can say Booking catching some bounce. Carnival catching some bounce. You could take a look at Pool, Expedia. There's a lot of that reopening trade has been doing well right now. You can see the cruise lines definitely getting a little bit of a lift. How was our airlines today? Airlines decent, nothing too crazy, but of course that's in industrials. Let's get out of consumer cyclical. Let's look at what was not hot. What was not hot was, of course, it was healthcare. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare here and what is moving in healthcare. Lately, it's been all about biotechs. You can see here, we've gone a little bit sideways. I wanted to see if we'd take that next leg. We got a little bounce. Nothing that really took off today. So keep your eyes to see if Moderna can catch that pullback and take that next step up. Of course, later in the week, we will get Biogen's earnings. So keep Biogen on your radar. We'll see if that can get moving again. Of course, utilities were dropping off on Friday, continue to drop off today. Duke coming right back down here towards the lows. We'll see if that kind of cracks the 105 and just really starts breaking down. This looks like a potential short trade here for me. If we're not expecting to get, kind of the continued push here in utilities and you're looking for a retrace, this looks like a dead cat bounce to me. They tried to hold up here in the top of the range, can't hold. And if it breaks through the support, could be right back down there towards the 100. Doesn't look too bad there in Duke as a short opportunity. We'll see what happens. All right, let's get out of what was hot and what was not. Let's get into our first interview today. It's going to be all about retail in this interview. We talked about this on Friday. It was very important to kind of catch. If you missed it, here you guys are getting another opportunity to catch it. Let's go back into this. This is going to be a replay from Dana Telsey on Friday, CEO, Chief Research Officer of Telsey Advisory Group. She's all about retail. And so let's hear what she had to say about the retail report and what we should be watching our eyes this week to see if it continues to run. All right, let's go ahead. Let's bring on Dana Telsey here, CEO and Chief Research Officer at Telsey Advisory Group. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excited to have you on. I know that I'll call you my retail expert because I feel like I need to go to you more often. I've seen so much work that you've done in the past, so excited to have you on here. Let's dive into first, what did you see in this retail sales report that changed?
I think overall, frankly, it definitely was a little bit better than expected. It's good to see, even with the inflationary headwinds, we saw a bit of improvement. But I think there could be a little bit of a lag, given the fact that some of these price increases have taken hold more recently. And we've also seen the level of inventory rise even more recently. So I can't wait to see what July and August numbers show, because I think we're heading into a very promotional back to school season with a lot of excess inventory that will have to be moved.
Excellent. That was actually down the list, but let's go ahead. Let's go straight to it. Of course, we saw the issues earlier in the kind of Q1 period with Target and Walmart. How do you feel the back to school season will be for department stores this time around?
I think it'll be more promotional this time around, and I think it's not just going to be the department stores. When you have companies like Old Navy looking to move merchandise like they are, American Eagle also, that's an offset to everyone. We also know, well, the back to school season, we've seen figures out there expected to be up around 7.5%. That doesn't include inflation. So the real number certainly may not be as robust. Also, we're going into second quarter earnings season in a few weeks, and I think you're going to see many of the retail companies reset their annual earnings guidance a little bit lower, given the fact that sales have slowed and it's become more promotional. It's a changed environment.
Yeah, definitely. We've been seeing more of those just kind of giving the earnings early, right? Kind of giving a little heads up about what's coming. What else could we expect to see in retail earnings coming up? Is there any kind of big report that's on your radar? The first one?
Well, all of them are on my radar because basically that's what I do. And there's always a connect the dots scenario between all of them. What I'm looking for is I want to see most recently how sales are trending. You want to see where it's happening. We're definitely seeing a pickup in store traffic, moderation in terms of online sales. We're seeing the continued shift to services from goods. But yet, with 2.6 million weddings happening this year and more occasions and events, people have been buying, whether it's fashion footwear or whether it's dresses, they are buying goods for occasions. But those occasions come September, some come October. Are we going to see a moderation there also? Consumer savings rates are back to more normalized levels. You do have the continued wage growth that's happening, but the wage growth isn't offset by the heavy headwinds of inflation. I think what's different, because companies aren't stocks and stocks aren't companies, valuations of many of these names have gotten certainly compelling given the shock to the system that's occurred. But when the reset guidance is here, I think that's what everyone's going to be looking towards. And I think in the near term, there's a lot more homework that's being done on the group.
Now, when we talk, we could get back and forth if we're going to go in a recession or not, but what industries are more resistant if we were to get into a recession here?
Well, certainly the essentials and off-price. Remember, off-price consumers go to because of the pricing, the value, the convenience, and the brands that they offer. So that's essentially where I'd be looking is on the discretionary side. It's off-price that should be able to have a benefit in a more conservative environment.
Now, one of the stocks that I've been watching recently, of course, is Nike. We saw their earnings. It really wasn't a bad earnings report to me. You can tell me what you saw there, Dana. But it's been down about 40% from its highs. Is this an opportunity here?
I mean, one of the things with Nike, with the market share they have, the global reach that they have, the continued interest in sporting goods, that is an opportunity for companies like Nike. Big global brands have pricing power and presence. And certainly with the product innovation that Nike has, there's more to come there. I also believe that when you think of activewear and sportswear in general, I think you're seeing with the new hybrid work environment, people are dressing more casually to the office. And that's a benefit when they do go into the office to certain of the more casual apparel companies of what's acceptable today compared to what it was pre-pandemic.
Excellent. I have to say I agree with that. And it's more, sometimes you can get away with some shorts sometimes. And that's the at-home kind of life, right? It's a little bit different. We'll continue to watch how Nike progresses here. Thank you for coming on, Dana Telsey. We'll definitely have you back on, especially the next retail report. So expect to hear from us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's continue there, pulling that down. And something that you should definitely keep on watch is how retail reacts after those retail sales. We saw apparel up today. We'll look to see if it continues running. All right, let's get into our earnings today. It's time to talk about BAC and Goldman Sachs. Let's go to first Bank of America here. Let's talk about how it's trading after the earnings. Of course, earnings came out this morning. Let's take a look at the chart here. We did get a little bit of a downturn action, and then when Goldman Sachs report came out, it popped on up right out the gates. It kind of gave a little bit of a push towards the upside. Then a huge pullback here. Looks like an hourly pullback opportunity if you guys like hourly charts. But we'll see what happens here in Bank of America after the EPS missing here and sales missing. EPS missing at 73 cents, missing the 78-cent estimate. Sales were at 22.7 billion, missing the 22.78 billion estimate there. Let's go ahead. We'll dive into Goldman Sachs, which was actually the good report here, coming in and flipping things around there, but also pulling back also here as they beat here. EPS coming in at $7.73 versus the $7.25 estimate. Sales were at 11.86, beating the 10.96 billion estimate. Also, we did get some commentary here by Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon. He said that my dialogue with CEOs and operating big global businesses, they tell me that they continue to see persistent inflation in their supply chains. Solomon said that our economists, meanwhile, say that there's signs of inflation will move lower in the second half of the year? The answer is uncertain, and we will all be watching it very closely. So something to keep on watch to see if that continued inflation shows its ugly head and continues roaring, or does that turn around and we finally see a peak of inflation and a turnaround there? Goldman Sachs was going on up. I do like this hourly pullback. I would look for a move back towards prior resistance or prior support. It did bounce off of that around the 299 area. We'll see if it can get back towards support or prior resistance around the 295. But right now it is hitting some level. Let's see if it can hold there around the 299 and then come back up towards the 308s. We'll see what happens in these bank kind of earnings and capital market stocks. All right, let's get out of the earnings. Let's go towards the next story of the day. Let's get into Delta. Delta is actually up off this earnings. Off this report here, Delta is buying Boeing MAX planes. Yes, we said it, guys. The deal here is for 100 737 MAX 10 planes with an option for 30 more. Delivery stated to begin in 2025. This is actually Delta's first order in more than a decade. Now, one thing that I have noted is that the MAX 10 model is the largest of the narrow body MAX planes and doesn't yet have government approval. I think this is something to keep on watch. If we don't have government approval, could this deal fall on the face of Delta? Yes, it could. Of course, this is coming after all the issues that we had coming out of the 737 MAX. So we'll see what happens here. Delta definitely making a move on up. Let's take a look at Boeing. How did this trade today? Looks like Boeing actually coming down on this news, but Delta being able to hold some of the gains. You guys in the chat, let me know. What do you guys think about these stocks, Delta and Boeing? Do you think Boeing will be able to get out more of those MAX planes? Or do you feel that it looking like Airbus wants to take lead? All right, let's continue going out of the Delta. And let's take a look at some earnings for the rest of this week. There's a lot to talk about. We'll keep on watching. First, we'll have IBM after the bell. That's something definitely to keep on watch. Of course, IBM is going to give us some insight into the tech world and some of the SaaS world. We'll see what happens there. You can see here earnings for the rest of the week. I'm putting up the calendar here for us. Tuesday, we get, of course, Johnson & Johnson, Hasbro, and Netflix after the bell. Let's take a look at Netflix, see what we see on the chart. Let's go towards Netflix here. Netflix actually having a decent day, trying to get back above that 200. I talked about it in pre-market prep that I was looking for maybe Netflix running into this number and then trying to get back up here towards the gap zone. As you guys can see, a good day for it, coming back down towards the lows there. You can see it tried to come back down there and just kind of push right out the gates here, getting that lift towards 200. We'll see if it can get up towards 200 tomorrow before the earnings release after the bell. Of course, what I've talked about on this name is that if we could potentially get something into the positive, it's expected to lose subscribers. Maybe it doesn't lose subscribers as fast, or it gets into the positives, could make Netflix catch a bid and start pushing up. We'll see what happens. All right. Looks like a lot of talk in there about Airbus and Boeing. Hey, can't go wrong there. We'll see what happens in Boeing. I don't want to fly on a Boeing airplane, says Bourne. I can't blame you. Seems like they've had more issues than they've had in the past. All right, what other earnings should we keep an eye out for? Let's take a look here on the calendar. So after Wednesday, on Wednesday, we'll start getting after the bell some big names like Tesla and United Airlines. Let's take a look at some of those charts and see how they're trading. Tesla is actually trading up right now and holding sideways. Nice little pattern on the 15-minute. Let's see if it takes that next leg up through the 750. I've talked about how if we could really start closing above the 750 area, this is when it's going to start looking good. So I'm going to give it up to 764s. If we can get up there, you're going to really set yourself up for a nice bullish move. But of course, let's say if for any reason this gets hit hard on earnings, it could be back down below the 700. Take a look to see if it runs into that number after the bell on Wednesday. You also get United Airlines. So take a look at UAL. It's taking a little bit of a jump right now. Let's see if it can fill this gap tomorrow. If it can fill this gap or on the next couple of days, it could get a nice little push before the earnings. We'll see what happens there in United Airlines Holdings. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's continue. What other ones will be coming on Thursday? You'll get American Airlines, followed by Domino's Pizza and AT&T before the bell. So keep these ones on your radar. And then, of course, Friday, Twitter and Verizon. But let's take a look here. DPZ, how's the Domino's doing? It's holding on, man. It doesn't want to go away back below the 400. So this is looking like it wants to come back towards the 450. We'll see what happens in Domino's. If they do have atrocious earnings, though, it could be back there towards the 350. Just be careful. AT&T trying to come back and hold the 20s. One thing that I like about AT&T is that it goes sideways, but it does have a decent dividend to make some income. That's what I really like about it. We'll see if it gets back up there and makes another push up. And then Twitter and Verizon. Take a look at Twitter. Twitter trying to come back up through the 40s. We'll see what happens with this kind of course, all the talk that's out there. If the Twitter deal is going to go through or not, I think it's going to make a huge difference to keep on watch. We'll see what happens there in the Twitter saga. All right, let's get out of earnings for the rest of the week. Let's talk some more catalysts here before we get into our next interview. We're going to get and talk to a little bit about what's going on in Coin today. So if you guys have seen Coin definitely taking a lift up, trying to get towards that 63.76. I was watching this today for the VWAP bounce that was right here. Talked about it on live trading. I said, this looks interesting here for Coin. I like this little bounce here. Nice little push there back towards the 63.28. What is going on here in Coin? Well, it looks like they're getting a nice lift after DNB Asset Management took a large share count here of the cryptocurrency exchange. We also saw Bitcoin to a monthly high and Ethereum also jumping here. So you guys are seeing Bitcoin stocks make a nice lift today. Stocks like Mara, Hut. Look at these trying to take a nice another leg up. We'll see if these can continue to push. Riot, Mara, all these trying to get that nice little lift. MicroStrategy. We'll see if they can hold their gains and to see if Bitcoin and Ethereum can hold their gains also. All right. Is there a paid service that provides insider trades before the public can see? No, I do not believe that is, unless they're pulling it directly from the filings, because insider trades, they're a filing that's made. And so, Aaron, just to kind of state on that, it would have to hit the SEC filings first and then going towards you or towards whatever service. And so that's where they get pulled from a lot of the times, where you're seeing insiders alerts come out. It's something that's scrubbing the SEC website for these reports and then putting it out there for you. All right. They wouldn't have it before anybody. That's the only thing that I would say. But hey, maybe they just have quicker algos to kind of get through the information. All right, let's get out of this. Let's talk a little bit about what else is going on out there right now. It looks like we're getting General Electric that wants to go ahead and split into 3 businesses. So we've already had this talk. Right now you're seeing it kind of get that little bit of a lift here. It revealed the 3 distinct companies that will result from the conglomerate's historical split. The resulting businesses will be GE Healthcare, GE Aerospace, and GE Vernova. And so definitely keep this one on your radar. It could get another lift here in the next couple of days. This one has split plenty of times trying to get it back in action. Really can't hold any gains. If you take a look at the daily, it's tried to hold up there by the 100 and then just quickly failed here. We'll see if General Electric can come back into play. Also, news out there that Senate Democrats are still planning to roll out a long-awaited legislation to decriminalize marijuana. Senator Cory Booker and Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer and Senate Ron Wyden confirmed reports that the senators are set to unveil the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes on cannabis stocks. I will tell you guys, full disclosure, I'm long on this trade. I'm looking to see if any of these stocks are going to continue that pop throughout the report here. Of course, if this actually does go through, I think these stocks would really break out. So for my man Spencer out there, if you guys remember, my man Spencer is a big MSOS fan. So I also took a little bit of MSOS. I'm going to continue to watch to see if this trade can push on up and get some legs. The big thing is we're going to need a report that it's going towards the floor. We'll see what happens there as we look to hear from the Cannabis Administration Opportunity Act this week. All right, we'll see what happens there. And I took my shot, right? Sometimes you're going to have to take some shots. To me, that would felt good to take some shots there in that trade. It could get on up there and make some of these cannabis stocks get some push. Yes, you got to buy the dip and do a little B rips. Hey, why not, man? Why not? All right, let's continue going. We'll see what just happened with Apple. Well, let's take a look there. Whoa, something happened. Something hit the tape. Thank you, Crassy. Let's go ahead. Let's find out what is going on here. I need my breaking news to hit the tape here. It looks like we got something coming in right now. Looks like Apple's plan to slow hiring and spending for some teams in 2023. Reported by Bloomberg, but I'm not sure if that was exactly the only thing that hit the tape there on Apple. Taking a look here, but definitely seeing some downside action there. Looking around to see if there's anything else here. Not seeing much. That's the only thing I see right now is a report by Bloomberg that they plan to slow hiring and spending for some teams in 2023. And this is coming from BZ Pro. So I can take a look to see if I see anything out there, but definitely a hard action move there in Apple. We're going to have to find out what's going on here. We'll see if this continues to hit Apple. And if this is hitting Apple, look at the SPY. Look at the SPY on that action too, right? And so look how the SPY came down on there too. We'll look to see if this drags down the market. As you were looking to get back up there to 390s, now you're easily back down towards the 386. We'll see what happens today. How are the Qs doing? Qs getting dragged also. Big down candle there with that Apple news coming on in there. We'll see what happens in this Apple name, but definitely, woof, downside action there. All right, not what we expected there. I didn't expect to get that news in the moment I was covering Apple, but we'll see what happens. Hold on to your shorts. Gonna hit the entire tech sec. I mean, hey, can't blame you for having that outlook. My question is why that news? Why that news is special? Honestly, to me, it doesn't seem like anything that would be that big for Apple to get hit that hard. But who knows? Maybe they have a little bit more insight than we do right now. I would agree with you. It's a big candle on slowing hiring. I agree. It's not even like they said they're stop hiring. They just said they're slowing hiring. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's going to hit the tape for. I don't see anything coming in right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go towards our next interview here. What I wanted to cover here is Kristen Fromhertz. He's a founder and CEO of Tribeca Trading Group. So we're going to go into a interview that we had today on Pre-Market Prep. That's our morning show. If you guys caught this, and maybe you've already seen this, but I thought he covered a lot of good stocks to here. Take a look. He's a big swing trader also, so he takes a look at these trends, and he's trying to catch some relative strength. Here you guys have it. I'll bring it on up, and then we'll go ahead and take a look here from this morning. This was by Christian Fromhertz, the founder and CEO of Tribeca Trade Group.
Officially in Fed speaker quiet period. So, next, the meeting is 7:27. So, asking, so I think it kind of, we had a big week of economics last week. We still have a couple data points out this week. We got some housing data out this week, but that gets a lot quieter along with the Fed, not having that distraction of going on. So it's really going to turn to what you guys were talking about this morning with earnings. And, we'll have a very interesting week of earnings. I know you guys have already covered the banks, but I think it's going to be kind of more of that. We're going to see some things where the expectations are so low, which I think
Yeah.
is what happened to the banks, is that who really wanted to go long these banks going into earnings,
Yeah.
and the charts didn't look good. They looked very bad. People were worried about what they're going to say about the economy. And you kind of have a bounce in most of them just because I think of the expectations.
I mean, Christian, that's such a big thing, as expectations going into these. And, that's what I was wondering too. I'm like, I'm scared of this earnings season from just the numbers perspective, because I think there's going to be some misses. I think there's going to be some guide downs. But I mean, you get Wells Fargo, which had a miss and a miss, and they bought it. I'm like, that's good news. You start seeing those, positive response to disappointing earnings. That's what we need to see to get through this earnings season, because I don't think it's going to be that great. How are you approaching this earnings season? What's your overall thoughts?
A little bit of watching, like I didn't play and I just don't play the banks for earnings because normally they don't move that much. But I'll be taking a couple shots on I think a few names that look like they're just the expectations are really low. I wanted to talk a little bit, and again, like also just doing a little bit of watching, just paying attention to if the bad news is priced in. I think it's a very bullish sign. And I think you were basically just saying it, where if there is bad news and the stock actually goes up, it tells you that that a lot of information is already baked into the stock price. So I think that will be interesting tomorrow is definitely going to be Netflix. I have a question for you. I have a little bit of trivia for you guys because Joel's not here. I
We
think
like
Joel,
trivia.
yeah, Joel usually does the trivia, right? What do you think? Without cheating and looking, what do you think the PE is on Netflix?
I think it's like 16 or 17 only.
Is it? Well, it did get put into the value, so I would say also I'm gonna go out and say 20.
I mean, you guys are right. I can't believe Dennis got it. It's about a 17, I think it is.
Look at that guy. He's probably been watching it.
Long it.
There it is. There's the
long
truth.
it. But well, actually, it's my wife that's long it in her.
It's the wife.
Account.
It's
I'm
the
actually
wife.
not. I stick to the bad stocks in her account. but as a family, we're long it.
Gotcha.
What are your thoughts? I mean, we go from a PE of like 60 or 70 on this thing. It's like a 17. It's a market multiple now. It's unbelievable that it's come back that far. But I mean, what's that telling you? I mean, what does that tell you when they've brought this down? Is that maybe that E isn't going to be, maybe that E could even go down. It's kind of scary that, the P's drop that low to me.
Yeah, I think at this point, if they say anything positive on the earnings call,
anything,
the stock's going to move up. But the question is, can they do that? Because they are notoriously just a bad name on earnings. I think the last 10 quarters they've gone up twice in the last 10 quarters. Actually. So I don't like that that earnings history. But that said, I think if they say anything positive, it's got a chance. So I might take a small shot on a long, something like a call spread where I'm defining my risk.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's more or less just kind of going to be watching and paying attention to that. But I think also, you guys mentioned the positioning, right, in S&P futures and so forth, right? I mean, I think we've got a pretty interesting dynamic right now. We've got really low positioning, we've got really low market sentiment, but you don't really have any fear, right? The equity put call ratio has been kind of not indicating any type of major extremes. You also have the VIX, which is all the way down. It's right around 25 this morning too. So it's just a very interesting combination of just the low positioning overall at this point. There's already been so much unwinding of stock that I think a lot of bad news is priced in at this point.
Okay, perfect. So what are some areas that you are going to be looking to see bounce back happen first?
Well, I mean, I actually like the chart of Apple, believe it or not. For the mega caps. I think Apple's not going to report for a couple weeks, but it did get over the 50-day moving average, and I think that's out of the FANG stocks. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the only one that has gotten back over its 50-day moving average. So, it's not a real expensive chart. It still has work to do. But I think if one wants to kind of rally into its earnings, this is a good candidate, and it's showing relative strength within the group. So that's one that I'm watching. And I pay attention to a lot to. Speaking of relative strength, to other areas, and I love what's going on right now in biotech. I think a lot of people have noticed it at this point. But it's not just biotech, but UNH had great earnings too. I mean, they crushed their earnings on Friday. So I'm looking for that group to continue. It's not just the UNH, but it's Centene, CNC. Cigna looks really great on the charts too. So I think that there's some places where you can be a little bit diverse, like even within the sector of healthcare, right? You could take a little bit of a shot at like a halo, which to me looks really good. That's a name that I'm long. I'm also long Vertex, VRTX. I've also got a little bit of the medical devices space, the LNTH. So the issue with this group is it's a little bit, they're a little bit tricky because some of these smaller cap biotechs, which is great that they're showing the strength, but they could have some type of bad news on a study and so forth that could bring the stock down, and you've got a little bit more risk in that sense. So you got to I think that you really have to watch your position size with some of these things, but it kind of can be a little bit balanced by taking along in a UNH and or a Cygnus, a CNC, to kind of balance out the risk a little bit.
How do you feel about bounce in oil names? We've been seeing a
All
little
right,
bit of a
I'm
weaker
going to jump
dollar
on
today,
in there.
but
If you guys
what
want
do
to
you think
catch
here,
there
Christian?
the
Are
rest
these,
of that interview that was on pre-market prep this morning, I didn't want to go ahead and cover the whole thing since I know that some people join us from pre-market prep, but I did want to cover some of those names that he mentioned there. So keep these ones on your radar. If you haven't done so before, check out Christian Fromhertz. He's going to be on Twitter all the time. He does really good recaps. I even watch these recaps, guys. So if you guys want to check those out, definitely find them on Christian Fromhertz Twitter. You can just go at Christian Fromhertz and find him. We'll see what happens there and to see if we can continue pushing. Is Mitch just changing his outfit really fast? Oh, you know it, man. I can just throw it on like that, but let's go ahead. Let's continue going. I just had the shirt on underneath. That's what it was. I just threw the jacket, but I'm quick. Let's go. Let's take a look at what's going on with that Apple. Honestly, I don't know what's going on there, but it's continuing decline here. I'm trying to get an answer for us. All that we have right now is that Bloomberg report, but definitely that's a hard knockdown there in the last 5 or 10 minutes there. A lot of volume also coming in there. 3.3 million shares on that 5 minutes. That came in right there at 135. So if I do see something, I will let you guys know. Right now, it's all on that hiring and spending slowdown, but didn't expect to see that. Q's continuing down there. SPY just getting dragged now as we see this kind of retrace here. My BTUs, I got stopped out in this one. I was taking a look at a swing there with that downturn. It stopped me out there right now. Not going to hold on to that. Tilray, I'm even thinking about dropping, but I'm going to hold on for the cannabis names to see if we get the Cannabis Administration Opportunity Act to push us later in the week. What tickers do you guys have on your radar? Do you got anything you guys want to check on out? Jonathan, you just might be right. I saw you this morning. You said that we would probably get a bearish tape on the SPY. I got you, my friend. I catch what you say in the chat. All right, let's go. Let's take a look there. Got to rewind that. Ryan and his feels for oil. Hey, I missed it somehow. Oil, I was looking for oil today to get a nice little lift. How's oil doing? I tried to come back there through the VWAP XOM. Couldn't hold it up there. So seeing some turnaround. Looks like we got some stocks in the chat to check out. Super SPAC, man, what's the Zoom? The Zoom, what's going on in Zoom? Are we going to hold on to 100? Is it going to hold on here? I don't know, man. For a while, this looked like a bullish chart, right? And the very day that I talked about this start being bullish was right here. You can see because my lines kind of have the date on them, and that's 7/7. That was right here on this green candle. The very next day, we tried to get up there through
and we failed miserably. Then we came back here towards the lows. If it doesn't hold here around the 97, it's easily back there towards the 80s. My biggest thing about Zoom is that I just don't feel that people need this as much as they used to. Out of the pandemic, I think a lot of people needed Zoom and to use it. After the pandemic, how many new players came in this space? And even we ask ourselves here at Benzinga, we use Zoom on a daily basis for a long time. And then when we switched to another platform with meaningless changes there. Honestly, the features didn't change much from going to platform. And you can still use Google Meeting, right? At least from what I understand, Google Meeting's 100% free. So I just don't know about Zoom communication in the long run. Will it hold 100? I'm going to actually go on the opposite end and say no, it doesn't hold 100 and becomes eventually maybe a cheaper stock than we all consider. But we'll see what happens after their earnings. It's going to be important. CCL was another one you wanted to watch. Carnival Cruise Line coming on back here. And really is trying to come back towards the 10. One of the things that is really happening here is a hold, and it does not want to break those pandemic lows. So is this an opportunity for Carnival to get it cheap? Yes. If you feel that the cruise line business will come back and that you eventually see, returning towards all-time high on actual bookings and actually getting the revenues up there, then I think Carnival is something you can keep watch here. NCLH also doing very similar moves, and so is RCL, but they're going to move hand in hand, right? If one kind of continues to leap, one can leap the other. All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a look here. Get that puts for the Qs. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look at Moderna being brought up by 505. Mr. Ali. Ali, let's go. One of the best names ever. Yes, I said it. Ali, man. Oh, it's honestly my favorite athlete. But let's go ahead. Let's take a look here at the weeklies. Weeklies trying to get back on up there. I've talked about the daily pulling sideways here. I liked it on this pullback day. It started holding here, the pullback. So I would look for opportunities towards these close. You got an opportunity today, 159.14. It's right here at 160 level. So that's the levels that I'm looking for pullbacks to hold. Right now, I could pull back there again and then take that next lift. What I would be watching is stocks like Pfizer. Pfizer pulled back a little bit. I was looking to see this laggard try to get back up there towards 54. It's pulling back right now, and I just don't see it as strong as it was. You can see here on biotechs, you had some sideways industry action. We'll see if we can get back up there and get that lift through the 6,500 on my index here. Of course, you guys can take a look at some other ones. What is it? XLF? No, that's XLU. No, I don't really use the ETF as often. I need to start using those more to explain it for you guys. But biotechs trying to get that bounce sideways action right now. We'll look to see if we get that push right back on up. There is some names that I'd keep on watching. The high names also. You can watch ARGX. This one's been strong lately. And BIIB has earnings later in the week. Keep your eyes on Biogen as that reports. And just to be certain here, that's on a Wednesday before the open. That could be the next run that probably gets this motor continuing here. That also could get BNTX running also. All right, let's take a look here. What else is being talked about? Looks like we're about to get out of here in a few seconds here, and just going to continue pushing here for us. Is there any news on global smartphone shipments? I'll take a look. I haven't seen anything hit the tape just yet. I have a feeling this has to do with something else in Apple, but I don't see anything hitting the tape just yet. I do have my news team out there working to try to give us an answer, but right now, the only thing that I have is that report coming out of Bloomberg. All right, look, SPACman, Kramer watches Money Mitch and goes against him all the time. Yes, Kramer needs to go and make some tomato sauce. Well, I'll tell you what, Kramer's probably making some tomato sauce right now with his Ethereum calls, and we'll see how he keeps pushing. He did say, I saw a mention that Deere was a really good buy. So that scared me the hell away from Deere. So we'll see what happens there if this kind of makes another push on up. But that's what he was calling out. And so we'll see what happens there. Eric KK was trying to battle. Has been holding into the green today, but something tells me that it's going to leak slowly into the red here. What was doing well, of course, was Coin and Unity. Those had nice days, nice bounce backs. So Unity just hanging on by a thread here. We'll see what happens there in Unity shop. Trying to get back up there too. I actually traded this name today, got stopped out on this pullback. Eventually it popped up through the levels that I was looking, but hasn't been able to hold any gains there. Roku also rejecting to get back towards the 100. This is one that I tell you to keep on watch this earnings, because if it can't hold on back past 100, it's going to crack probably 80 and continue to the downside. So we'll see if Roku could really catch some bottom. It has a really good chart now, but just needs to get out of this range. You can see here on the weekly, you can see how you had this downward pattern, right? And you also have now an upward slope here. Let's see what happens. Does Roku break up or below these numbers? I would keep watch to see what happens. So that's like 82.50 on downside, 93.50 on the upside. Roku's going to, I think, have a big move. So I'm going to keep it on my radar to see what happens there. NVIDIA tried to keep into the green, but quickly started rejecting that breakout look. Now back there towards 163.43s. I got nearly all out of my XOM Oxy today. Not bad, Shannon. I can't blame you for that. One of the things is we got to be careful with those types of trades, especially to get caught in them over time. It's okay to maybe ride momentum right now. I wouldn't want to be holding oil too long, but then again, you're seeing Warren Buffett take a shot. So maybe Warren knows more than I do, and I would definitely say he does. So we'll see what happens in that situation if oil can come back moving. UNG we covered earlier in the day. I think this is something definitely to keep on watch. With the deal that came out of the EU today, should help some of the supply issue. But if this really comes in, we're doomed for a big push here in Boyle. I've been talking about Boyle since in the 50s here. And now this is really starting to look good here. This has come up a decent amount lately. It's about 38% there since last week. And this is when I was really starting to look at this. Looks like an opportunity that I missed on the swing trade here on Boyle, but it is an interesting ticker to keep watch. We'll see what happens there in UNG and some of these kind of natural gas names. Solar also having a really good day in tech. Let's see if it hold their gains today. ENPH is one I'm going to put on your radar. Why? Look at all these multiple highs near the 211 area. This gets through here and really starts making some leg up. We could start pushing. I've talked about how these like to move in July, a pullback in August, and a rip going into September. That's what I've seen in my seasonality look on in the past here for solar in the past. So I'm going to keep watching here. You can see here as it came into July here. So July had that first push going into there. You saw a push into August, then it pushed, then September hit. You got that pullback. You got another lift here into October, and then it continued to push. I'm looking to see if we can get this drive to come back. We've had this happen before where we've gotten a little bit of a push here. You can see last year, this similar trade did well. Let's see if it comes back this time around. All right, that's going to do it for me, guys. It's about 1:56 in a little bit. You'll be getting some cryptocurrency content. I'm sure they're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on right now in this recent rally. If you guys are cryptocurrency fans, or maybe for some reason you're looking to understand the latest down wave, is it winter? How long will this winter last? Are we giving a halving? We're going to talk all about that. I'm sure Logan and Ryan will get into all of that in Moon or Bust. And this is actually a shirt from them in their swag. So I want to give them a shout out. Decentralize everything. And that's right. That's going to wrap it on up. We'll see you guys on, of course, Moon or Bust just coming up. And I'll see you guys a little bit later on At the Close as we go ahead and wrap up the day's action and see if that Apple drop ever stops dropping. Because, man, it is taking a hit here and continuing leaking. Look at this 5-minute chart. It is just leaking out here, guys. I'm going to go ahead and do some research on Apple to see if there was something else that we missed in the tape. But man, that to me seems like news, and it's been dropping fast. So be careful out there, traders. Like always, protect yourself. Always comes first is capital preservation. Survival is the game. Profits will come with a great process. Like always, just keep battling. We'll be back tomorrow with 2 expert opinions. Want to definitely dive into some of these earnings reports that will start hitting the tape tomorrow. Definitely smash the thumbs on up. We'll talk a little bit more about Netflix as it's coming after the close tomorrow. I'm going to try to get an expert on Netflix. So definitely give me a thumbs on up. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and keep battling out there. Stock market movers with Money Mitch, and I'll see you guys at the close.